AEW WrestleDream is done and over, and Jesus. Just like I do with every pay-per-view, I took a shower, I jerked off, and I got my thoughts together, so let's talk about it. We opened up the show with Jamie Hayter versus Thekla, and this was a very physical match. These girls are throwing haymakers at each other, throwing each other all around the ring and into the barricades, but ultimately Jamie Hayter would hit the Hayterade to pick up the victory, and it was a very solid match. After the match, Queen Aminata would celebrate with Jamie, and the Triangle of Madness would be on the stage looking at him. Next up, the first ever women's blood and guts match. Next up is the Young Bucks versus the Jurassic Express in a $500,000 match. The Young Bucks would come out, but unfortunately they don't have enough money for an entrance, so their entire entrance music is literally a computer saying insufficient funds, transaction denied, and someone in the crowd has a sign that says, "Hey Bucks, $20 for a photo," and the Bucks are so broke that they actually do it, so they desperately need to win this $500,000 match. Jungle Boy would crack Matt Jackson with a sign a fan made. Jungle Boy and Nick Jackson would chicken fight on the outside. Matt would jump off the apron and hit a cutter on Luchasaurus, and Nick would hit a Canadian Destroyer on Jungle Boy on the apron. Luchasaurus would do a moonsault on Matt Jackson, and Jungle Boy would jump off Matt and give Nick a Canadian Destroyer. Jungle Boy would accidentally jump right into super kicks from the Bucks, allowing them to hit the EVP trigger, but Jungle Boy would be able to kick out. But ultimately, the Lucha Express would hit the countdown to extinction to win the match and the $500,000. After the match, the Don Callis family would attack Lucha Express, and the Bucks would just leave. But as they do, Kenny Omega would come out, and Kenny would ask the Bucks if they were gonna help, but they don't, it's not their business. So Kenny would help the Lucha Express fight off the Don Callis family. Very great tag team match. Next up is the Demand versus the Hurt Syndicate in a #1 Contenders Tornado tag team match for the Trios Championship. The Demand would attack the Hurt Syndicate while they're making their entrances. The Gates of Agony would powerbomb Shelton Benjamin onto Bobby Lashley through a table. Shelton would German suplex Ricochet outside of the ring onto everybody, and he would hit a perfect tope con hilo. But ultimately the Hurt Syndicate would pick up the win after a Bobby Lashley spear, and now the Hurt Syndicate are #1 contenders for the Trios Championships. It was a nice match, I liked it. Next up is Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe for the TNT Championship. Kyle would powerbomb Briscoe onto the steel steps. Kyle would go for a brainbuster on the apron, but Briscoe would hit the J Driller instead. Briscoe would hit a froggy bow onto the outside. Briscoe would hit the J Driller, but at the last possible second, Kyle would be able to get one finger on the rope. While the ref's back was turned, Kyle would low blow Mark Briscoe and hit him with a brainbuster, but Mark would be able to kick out. I thought the match was done and over here, but ultimately Kyle would hit a brainbuster on the turnbuckle to win the match and retain his TNT Championship. A very fantastic match. Kyle is just so good, and Kyle is the future of AEW. Hopefully the Protostar holds the TNT Championship for a very long time. Next up is Kris Statlander versus Timeless Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship. Toni would go for the Storm Zero, but Statlander would be able to catch herself and reverse the Storm Zero. Statlander would put in the seat belt, but Toni would be able to kick out this time around. Statlander would have her thighs wrapped around Toni's neck, and it looks like Toni was about to pass out, and Toni would yell, "Just fucking kill me." So Statlander would hit Saturday Night Fever to win the match and retain her AEW Women's World Championship. After the match, Toni would give Statlander a championship, giving her respect. In a very great match. While Statlander is celebrating, Mercedes Mone would come out and tell Statlander to get the hell out of her ring, which transitions us into our next match, Mercedes Moné's TBS Championship Open Challenge. In the interim, Ring of Honor Women's World Television Champion Mina Shirakawa would come out, which would be a very big mistake, because Mercedes would end up winning this match and winning the interim Ring of Honor Women's Television Championship, and also Mercedes' 11th championship. But after the match, Kris Statlander would interrupt Mercedes Moné just like she did a moment ago, and she takes out Mercedes Moné. Next up is Brodido versus Konosuke Takeshita and Kazuchika Okada for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Before the match, I just gotta say, Takeshita looks great with the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Bandito and Brody would look like they're about to finally do the Macarena together, but Okada would break it up and do a Macarena of his own. Takeshita would look for a discus forearm, but Bandito would catch him with a vicious back fist. Bandito would hit a reverse Hurricane Run on Takeshita, but he would hit one of his own. Brody King would go for a clothesline on Takeshita, but he would duck, allowing Brody to hit a cannonball on Okada. Takeshita would be able to hit the Blue Thunder Bomb on Brody King, but before he could pin him, Bandito would hit a Shooting Star Press on Takeshita. Takeshita would hit his German suplex on Brody King, but Brody would immediately get up and clothesline Takeshita. Bandito would try and splash on Okada, but Okada would catch him in the air with a drop kick. Okada would go for the Rainmaker on Bandito, but Bandito would duck, causing Takeshita to get hit with the Rainmaker instead. And Okada looked like he didn't mind that he did that at all. But ultimately, with the fighting spirit in Bandito, he would hit the 21 plex with one shoulder to win the match and retain the AEW World Tag Team Championships. After the match, Bandito and Brody would finally hit the Macarena together. fantastic fucking match. I love Brodido so much, and if Takeshita and Okada would lock in and stop hating, they would be a godly tag team. Next up is Hangman Adam Page versus Samoa Joe for the AEW World Championship. Hangman would go for a moonsault, but Joe would move out of the way, but Joe doesn't know that he landed on his feet, and Hangman would surprise him with a drop kick. Samoa Joe would go for the muscle buster, but Hangman would get out of it, and he would be able to hit the Deadeye on Samoa Joe. Hangman would hit the buckshot lariat, but Joe won't go down. Hangman hits another, but Joe still doesn't budge. Hangman hits a third and final buckshot lariat, putting down Samoa Joe and winning the match to retain his AEW World Championship. And now Hangman can say he has beaten Samoa Joe. Great match. I mean, it was a given. Hangman has been amazing this year, and Samoa Joe is an absolute legend. The Ops would come out and help up Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe and Hangman would shake hands. But Samoa Joe would clothesline Hangman and the Ops would attack him. Samoa Joe would hit the muscle buster on the AEW World Championship, and Joe looks like an absolute demon. But it's okay, Samoa Joe is way better as a heel anyway. Do we see a rematch between Samoa Joe and Hangman? I would love that. Backstage, Mercedes Moné would challenge Kris Statlander for the AEW Women's World Championship at Full Gear. Maybe Statlander can do what she couldn't do at last year's Full Gear and beat Mercedes Moné. Or will Mercedes Moné get another championship? We'll just have to find out. We move on to the main event, Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley in an I Quit match. Moxley would put a skewer into Darby Allin's fingernails and almost rips it off. Moxley would pull out a taser and he would tase Darby Allin with it. Claudia would sling Darby from the ring to the announce table. Darby Allin's just a human crash dummy. Moxley would hit the paradigm shift through 2 tables on the outside. The Death Riders would bring in an aquarium and fill it with water, and Moxley would try and fucking drown Darby Allin, but Darby still will not say I quit. The lights go out, and Sting would come back to help Darby Allin. Sting takes out the Death Riders, and Sting throws Darby Allin the bat, passing him the torch. Well, the bat in this case. And Sting would leave with Marina Shafir so she couldn't get involved anymore. Darby would attack Moxley with the bat, hitting his legs, his ankles, fucking up his legs everywhere, and Darby would be able to put him in the Scorpion Deathlock, and with no help left, and his legs weakened by the bat, Jon Moxley would say I quit. It was a good match, but it was a little underwhelming. With the build up with all the fire and the flamethrowers, I definitely thought someone was going to be set on fire. But I'm pretty sure AEW couldn't do a lot of bleeding or anything due to the restrictions from the Missouri Pro Wrestling Commission. The way I would have done the ending is Darby threatens to light Moxley on fire, but Moxley says I quit. But Darby would end up setting Moxley on fire anyway. But what we got was fine, I guess. And that was AEW WrestleDream. Yet again, a very good pay-per-view from AEW this year. But if that I Quit match was just a little bit more dangerous, this would have been an amazing pay-per-view. I don't know if that said something about me, but I just wanted a little bit more carnage. Now we look to the future at Full Gear, which is already shaping up to be great. Samoa Joe and Hangman will probably have their rematch. Mercedes Moné versus Kris Statlander for the AEW Women's World Championship. We'll just have to see how the pay-per-view lines up. But let me know what you think about WrestleDream. Did you enjoy it? But most importantly, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'll make more silly videos like this in the future, so stop on by when the time comes. Until then, be careful.